it's whatever you like.
Not every star needs to speak loudly to be heard. Bruno Mars, the sweet voice, masterful dancer, and retro funk figure straight out of the 1970s, is living proof of that. Throughout his more than 15-year career, he has been almost immune to scandal. No controversies, no live streams, no podcasts. And yet, in early 2025, as rumors swirled across social media that he owed $50 million to the MGM casino, Bruno unexpectedly broke his silence with just a short Instagram clip and a caption, "I'll pay it off soon. Keep streaming my music." A joke that felt real, catching the whole world off guard. But what lies behind that one sentence? The confidence of an artist of few words who understands the media game, or a musical genius playing a game bigger than anyone else? Join us as we dive into this strange story. And don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss out on the fascinating secrets behind the spotlight. A childhood without spotlight. Many people still think Bruno Mars was born with everything: innate talent, the halo of an artistic family, and a rose-strewn path to musical stardom. But if you flip back to the first pages of his life story, you'll find a chapter drenched in shadows, a childhood without electricity, without running water, without even a bed to sleep in. There was only one thing never in short supply: music. And it was that very music that saved a little boy who once slept on rooftops singing into the cold night to forget the gnawing hunger in his belly. Bruno Mars, whose real name is Peter Gene Hernandez, was born on October 8, 1985 in Honolulu, Hawaii. From a very young age, he was surrounded by music, but not the kind of musical upbringing common among Hollywood's rich. His father, Peter Hernandez, was a Puerto Rican Jewish percussionist, while his mother, Bernadette San Pedro Bayo, was a hula dancer and singer from the Philippines with Spanish ancestry. The two met on stage, fell in love through melodies, and turned music into the main language of their household. Bruno was the sixth child in a large family of performers, where every child was expected to know how to play an instrument or sing harmony at an early age. The nickname Bruno was given to him by his father when he was just 2, inspired by wrestler Bruno Sammartino, because the little boy was round and stubborn like the WWE legend. Before he turned 3, Bruno was already performing with his family's band, the Love Notes, at hotels, clubs, and weddings around Hawaii. He quickly became a child star through his role as Little Elvis, a miniature version of Elvis Presley, astonishing audiences with his expressions, dance moves, and vocals that mirrored the rock and roll legend. At 6 years old, Bruno appeared in Midweek Hawaii magazine and landed a small part in the Hollywood film Honeymoon in Vegas. Some called him a stage prodigy, and many believed the door to fame had already opened for this naturally gifted child. But the reality was far less sweet. When Bruno was 12, his life took a drastic turn. His parents divorced, the family band broke up, and their financial foundation crumbled overnight. Bruno, along with his father and siblings, had to leave their cozy home and move to an unexpected place, an abandoned bird zoo called Paradise Park. No electricity, no water, no bathroom. The boy who once sang on big stages now slept on benches, rooftops, or cold wooden floors. On some nights, father and son survived on crackers and tap water. They used public restrooms in parks and bathed using a nearby fire hydrant. In a later interview, Bruno shared that music was the only thing that got him through that time. "I sang, because when I sang, I didn't feel hungry anymore. When I sang, I forgot I was poor." Those years living in the wild, surrounded by darkness, didn't kill Bruno's dreams. They forged his iron will, and a heart that remains grateful to life, no matter how cruel it gets. That boy wasn't just poor in material things. He also had to fight against prejudices about race and identity. At school, Bruno didn't fit in, not quite Asian, not quite Latino, not quite black or white. He belonged to a gray zone in society, where kids like him often felt lost both in identity and opportunity. But instead of trying to blend in, Bruno embraced his difference and made it his own. That's why he later refused to sing like Enrique Iglesias, or change his name to sound more Western as record labels suggested. He kept Bruno as a reminder of the past, and chose Mars as if to declare, "I don't belong to this world, I come from my own planet." Back then, Honolulu wasn't the tourist paradise people imagined. For Bruno, it was a place that both nurtured his talent and challenged his spirit daily. He had to teach himself drums, guitar, piano, and songwriting. When you have nothing but time, you use it to create something, and Bruno built a musical treasure from those difficult days. Bruno's talent doesn't just come from his voice or stage presence, it comes from the harsh life experiences he endured. When you've slept on the street, lived on crackers, watched your family fall apart, and been rejected by the world, Music is no longer just a passion, it becomes a way to survive, to exist, to not break down. And that's why when you hear Grenade, the pain feels real. When you listen to Just the Way You Are, you sense the honest voice of someone who once felt unseen. When Bruno Mars steps onto a stage behind the glittering lights is a winding journey where a boy who sang to forget hunger is now the man who makes millions sing along. Bruno has never written an autobiography. He doesn't need to recount his childhood in words because his music is the most vivid journal there is. And maybe because his past isn't painted like a fairy tale, every note he writes hits so powerfully. He doesn't tell his story to gain pity, but through how he lives, sings, and becomes a symbol in the most honest and unembellished way. No myth, just a childhood so raw it hurts. The journey to the top and the first falls. In 2003, Bruno Mars left Hawaii carrying nothing but an old suitcase and a burning musical dream. The 18-year-old had no money, no connections in Los Angeles, the city hailed as the paradise of the entertainment industry. But he brought with him the most powerful weapon of all, the belief that he was born to be on stage. From the very beginning, Bruno realized that talent alone wasn't enough. In a city where people were easily judged by their name, skin color, or background, the name Peter Jean Hernandez got him pigeonholed into the Latin stereotype. Record labels suggested he change his stage name, sing passionate ballads in the style of Enrique Iglesias, and even look more Western if he wanted success. But Bruno refused. He changed his name to Bruno Mars, a blend of his childhood nickname and the cosmos, as a way to declare, "I don't belong to a market. I come from Mars." At one point, he signed with the legendary label Motown, the cradle of icons like Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson. But instead of being nurtured, Bruno was shelved in silence. No debut songs, no release plans, the label froze him out as if his talent didn't exist. It was one of his first harsh setbacks, but it was also the moment he learned an important lesson. If he couldn't shine on stage, then he would shine behind the scenes. And so Bruno formed the production team, the Smeezingtons, with Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine, two creative partners who would later become essential to all his hit records. 3 young men, a tiny studio, and countless sleepless nights gave birth to major hits like Right Round Flo Rida, Long Distance Brandy, and Wavin' Flag Kanan, the official song of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Word began spreading in the industry about a Hawaiian kid who could write million-dollar hooks in under an hour, but Bruno didn't want to stay behind the curtain forever. When the opportunity came, he seized it with everything he had, first with his vocals on Nothing on UBOB, then billionaire Travie McCoy. Though he only sang the hooks, his husky, airy voice seemed to melt into the atmosphere, and the world paused to listen. "Who's singing that?" The question echoed across radio stations and social media. And for the first time, the name Bruno Mars was truly recognized. His unexpected success left Atlantic Records with no choice but to act. They quickly signed him and invested in his debut album. But it was Bruno's persistence and the difficult path leading up to that moment that made him a truly self-made artist. No gimmicks, no media boost, no powerful backers. Bruno rose on the strength of his own talent, unshakable spirit, and relentless creative drive. Looking back, the journey from a boy with no bathroom in Hawaii to a hit songwriter for the world, and eventually to one of the top solo artists, was anything but smooth. It had sky-high peaks, but also shadowy valleys. Those early stumbles were what shaped Bruno Mars into the artist he is today, not just a singer, but a storyteller through music, with real, honest, and deeply emotional stories to tell. From pop star to musical icon, the success of Nothing on You and Billionaire flung open the doors of the music industry for Bruno Mars. But he didn't just walk through, he blew them off their hinges with his debut album. In 2010, Bruno released Doo-Wops and Hooligans, a name that sounded like a joke, but perfectly captured the spirit of his music's sweet yet rebellious classic, yet refreshing. The album didn't rely on high-end studio effects or feature big-name rappers for clout, just Bruno's voice, a few live instruments, and irresistibly catchy melodies. Just the Way You Are, the lead single, immediately shot to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, went 13x platinum in the US, and became one of the most played love songs of the decade. Grenade followed with its heart-wrenching melody and a chorus that screamed from a shattered soul, hitting #1 in over 15 countries. Bruno, once the underdog no one bet on, now stood shoulder to shoulder with music's biggest names. Never one to repeat himself, in 2012, Bruno dropped Unorthodox Jukebox, an unexpected but perfectly timed pivot. The album boldly blended pop, soul, funk, reggae, rock, and R&B like a musical manifesto without boundaries. He became the heartbroken romantic in When I Was Your Man, the swaggering lover in Treasure, and the cheeky rebel in Locked Out of Heaven, a track often described as the love child of the Police and Michael Jackson. The album earned him the 2014 Grammy for Best Pop Vocal Album, and proved one thing: Bruno wasn't a lucky star, but a true artist capable of reinventing himself with every track. But the biggest turning point, the moment Bruno became a global cultural phenomenon, came from a song he didn't even own. Uptown Funk 2014, his collaboration with producer Mark Ronson. With its explosive groove, classic funk drums, and the rallying cry, "Don't believe me, just watch," the song became an inescapable hit. Uptown Funk held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 consecutive weeks, was the best-selling single of the year, and amassed over 4 billion views on YouTube. No EDM drops, no trap beats, no auto-tune, just retro vibes reborn in a slick, vibrant form. Bruno wasn't just dominating the charts. His 2014 Super Bowl halftime show performance at just 28 years old is still considered one of the best in NFL history alone, on a massive stage, drumming, singing, live dancing non-stop for 12 minutes with no guest stars. He won over millions of American viewers, many raised on rock and hip-hop, with his Motown-style solo charisma. In 2016, he was invited back, this time alongside Beyoncé and Coldplay, a rare honor reflecting his cross-genre influence. That same year, Bruno released 24K Magic, a masterpiece dripping with the spirit of the 80s and 90s. Unlike anything trending at the time, 24K Magic was an audio celebration: retro synths, new jack swing beats, bright brass, and choreography polished to the last step. The title track, along with hits like That's What I Like and Versace on the Floor, didn't just entertain, they resurrected the golden age of classic R&B. The result. At the 2018 Grammy Awards, 24K Magic swept the major categories: Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Best R&B Song, and 4 others. Bruno became the night's most awarded artist, an honor rarely seen, especially for someone who doesn't follow musical trends. What makes Bruno Mars unique is this: he's not just a singer. He's a songwriter, producer, dancer, instrumentalist, and stage director. He oversees every element of his work, from the first beat to the final spotlight. In an era of auto-tune and pre-packaged music, Bruno stands as proof that raw artistry still exists: live vocals that don't miss a note, Broadway-level showmanship, and music arranged like a real band performance. But more than accolades, Bruno Mars represents something modern. Music desperately needs effortless charm, timeless style, and limitless creative identity. He can make you cry with When I Was Your Man, groove to Treasure, and scream, "Don't believe me, just watch," during Uptown Funk, all in the same show. From a boy who once slept on a cold floor in Hawaii, Bruno Mars has risen to become a global music icon, not because he tried to be someone else, but because he's always stayed true to himself. And in a world that's loud and artificial, that is exactly what music needs most. The art of silence. When saying nothing is a media strategy, in an era where every artist feels compelled to be present 24/7, from bedroom live streams to podcasts filled with self-pity, Bruno Mars chooses silence. No TikTok dance trends, no behind-the-scenes YouTube vlogs, no Instagram updates about his private life. What the public knows of him comes solely through explosive stage performances and chart-topping songs. No one knows what he eats, where he goes, or how he lives, yet everyone awaits his next release like a major musical event. That strategy is no accident. Bruno Mars understands this: the less you appear, the longer you are remembered. Rarity becomes value. He doesn't need tabloid love stories or reality TV house tours. While other stars gamble their names for attention through stunts or shocking statements, Bruno chooses to make each return feel like an earthquake. No noise needed, just a new single, a tour, or even a simple live video, and millions will share, talk, and tune in. In an age drowning in information, Bruno Mars turns silence into an art form. That discretion doesn't mean he's quiet in success. In fact, Bruno Mars is one of the most financially successful artists in the world, and barely anyone notices. His 24K Magic World Tour alone grossed over $300 million globally, with more than 200 sold-out shows spanning the Americas, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. It ranks among the highest-grossing tours of all time, standing beside giants like U2, Madonna, and Beyoncé. Even more remarkable, the entire tour was independently run by Bruno. No label control, no profit cuts. He oversaw everything from stage design and lighting to the band and schedule. Each show was like a miniature Broadway production, tight, world-class, and flawlessly executed. Bruno sang fully live, danced without a misstep, and charmed every audience. He could turn massive stadiums into pulsating nightclubs and then silence tens of thousands with a single sorrowful ballad. As of 2025, Bruno Mars's net worth is estimated at around $175 million. He owns properties in both Hawaii and California, including a Hollywood Hills mansion worth over $6.5 million, featuring a private studio, a fruit orchard, and a 70s-style pool. In his garage, he collects vintage cars from Cadillac Eldorados to Rolls-Royce Silver Clouds, yet he almost never posts pictures of them. To him, they're not for showing off, but for late-night drives while listening to fresh demos. Beyond cars, he's also a lover of antique jewelry. Many of the vintage chains, rings, and watches Bruno wears on stage are one-of-a-kind pieces hunted down from auctions or old-school jewelers. But again, he never makes them the center of attention. No close-up diamond shots, no flaunting price tags. In one rare interview about his spending habits, Bruno just smiled and said, "I invest in inspiration. If something makes me want to write music, I'll buy it." What's remarkable is that despite his fame and fortune, Bruno Mars has never been involved in financial scandals, contract lawsuits, or feuds with collaborators. No one has stormed out on him in anger. No producers talk behind his back. Collaborators like Anderson .Paak, Mark Ronson, and Philip Lawrence describe him as a perfectionist, but also funny, hardworking, and so respectful of the craft he almost seems old-fashioned. That choice to stay quiet hasn't just carved out a space for Bruno Mars to exist and thrive, it's also turned him into a new kind of icon, one of control, conviction, and faith that music can speak for itself. And maybe in a world where everyone is talking too much, knowing when to be silent is the rarest skill of all. Bruno doesn't need to shout to be noticed. He just needs to sing and the world listens. The gambling rumor. When a joke outsmarts a media crisis. In March 2023, an unverified post suddenly went viral on American social media. Bruno Mars owes MGM Resorts $50 million from gambling debts. The rumor quickly became a hot topic. Some scoffed, calling it a joke. Others were suspicious, citing Bruno's notoriously private lifestyle as evidence of a double life. Edited images of him at Las Vegas casinos and cryptic comments about 24K magic interpreted as an ode to luxury and hedonism spread across Reddit X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok. Mainstream media remained silent. Fans were worried. But Bruno, not a single word. Then, in January 2025, as the music industry scrambled to keep up with the rise of AI, Bruno posted a simple photo on Instagram standing in front of a vintage speaker system, glass of wine in hand, with a one-sentence caption, "I'll pay it off soon. Keep streaming, no tags, no explanation, not even a hashtag," but the world went wild. Within an hour, the post had over 1 million likes. Twitter exploded with memes. Fans rushed to Spotify, replaying Bruno's entire catalog, as if each stream were a coin dropped into the debt jar. The hashtag #PayBruno'sStet trended worldwide for 2 days. TikTok was flooded with parody videos of Bruno gambling, and his fanbase launched a campaign called Stream to save Bruno with a sense of humor that was impossibly endearing. MGM's response. A rushed statement denying any financial involvement, claiming Bruno Mars has no debt to MGM, and the partnership remains strong. But it was too late. Whether the rumor had truth or not, Bruno, with a perfectly timed joke, had flipped the entire narrative. This wasn't just smart crisis management. It was narrative mastery. While other celebrities might scramble to refute rumors, file lawsuits, or write teary-eyed public letters, Bruno simply made the world laugh. He didn't explain, didn't beg for sympathy. Instead, he turned the rumor itself into a bonding moment for fans, a shared inside joke that made people love him more. And this wasn't the first time Bruno Mars turned speculation into legend. Years ago, when faced with rumors about his sexuality, ethnicity, or alleged drug use, he stayed silent or responded in ways far more powerful than words, a gut-wrenching ballad, an electrifying live show, a humble Grammy acceptance speech. And now, when a gambling rumor threatened his clean artist image of 2 decades, Bruno needed only one sentence, and it landed like the year's most brilliant punchline. In an age where every artist seems to live on livestream and every misstep can go viral within minutes, maintaining a scandal-free image for 20 years is nearly impossible. Yet Bruno Mars not only managed to do that, he made the world forget that he was once arrested for cocaine possession in Las Vegas back in 2010. Because since then, he's never made the same mistake, never given anyone a reason to doubt his commitment to a clean and private life. In a rare interview, Bruno once said, "I don't like to explain. Every time I step on stage, I say everything I need to say." And maybe that's true. He doesn't pave the way for his image with elaborate PR strategies. He doesn't plead for the public to believe in who he is. He just sings. And sometimes, if needed, he delivers a perfectly timed joke. For an artist whose career lives and breathes through music, that's the smartest way to keep his audience. For a man who isn't swept up in social media, it's how he survives in a noisy world without being consumed by it. And for an artist who always steps out of the spotlight at the right moment, it's how he turns shadows into his own kind of radiance. Rumors may come and go, but one joke at the right moment can become legend. Bruno Mars did just that. No mic, no stage, just one caption, and the whole world listened. A distinctive icon in the digital age. In a world where social media can catapult someone to stardom overnight, or drag them into oblivion with a single hateful comment, Bruno Mars chooses to stand outside the game. Not because he doesn't know how to use social media, but because he understands that true power lies not in what you post every day, but in choosing when not to post at all. That's why, for over 2 decades, Bruno Mars has been remembered not just as a hitmaker, but as a rare figure in showbiz who has maintained a classic aura, mysterious, quiet, and trustworthy. His longtime relationship with Jessica Cabin is the clearest example of that private lifestyle. The two met in 2011 when Bruno was just breaking into global superstardom with Just the Way You Are. Jessica, a Puerto Rican model, actress, and designer, wasn't just a red carpet partner, she was the one Bruno once called a love song that doesn't need any arrangement. They lived together in Los Angeles, occasionally spotted in paparazzi photos or courtside at NBA games, but never once did Bruno offer a public comment about their relationship. In 2024, fans noticed that Jessica had deleted all photos of Bruno from her Instagram. No statements followed, no breakup confirmation, no new heartbreak ballads, and definitely no talk show tears or podcast confessions as some artists tend to do when love ends. Bruno Mars remained silent. And because he always stays silent, no one dared claim anything as fact. It was a quiet armor he had built over the years, and it worked flawlessly. Bruno doesn't sell his privacy. He doesn't turn love pain or childhood memories into marketing content. There's no memoir about growing up in an abandoned zoo, though that story alone could make a powerful novel. No podcast monologues. No Netflix documentaries exposing fame behind the scenes. The only thing he chooses to share with the public is music. And even that he doesn't exploit for cheap emotion. Bruno's ballads don't complain or point fingers. They feel like unsent love letters, beautiful, quiet, and hauntingly sincere. It's not hard to understand why Bruno chose this path. While peers like Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, and The Weeknd have all faced scandal, whether from privacy breaches or by stepping into the spotlight themselves, Bruno Mars has remained outside the storm. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he knows what's worth holding back. In a world where people are willing to trade everything for views, likes, or a shot at virality, Bruno chooses to hold on to himself. That choice has made his image not only enduring, but one of the most valuable brand assets in entertainment. Brands want to work with Bruno not just because he's famous, but because he's irreplaceable. When he appeared in a campaign for Selvaray Rum, a brand he co-owns, audiences didn't see just another celebrity face, they saw a spirit. Someone who embodied the product with a lifestyle that was classic, elegant, and proudly self-contained. No big slogans needed, just him at a piano pouring a glass of rum, and that was enough. Bruno's life philosophy echoes through every rare media statement. I don't want people to remember me for what I said, but for what I made them feel. That's not a PR-crafted slogan. It's a way of life proven through every song, every stage, and every moment of intentional silence. As debates swirl about whether music is losing its soul to AI, to hit-making formulas, to artists who rise and fall like shooting stars, Bruno Mars remains like a fixed star in the pop sky, not blinding but always shining, not needing to trend every day but never forgotten. In an era where everything can be copied, exposed, or mimicked, authenticity is rare currency. And Bruno Mars, through quiet living, has preserved it. What's most fascinating is this: the more he keeps to himself, the greater he becomes in the public imagination. No one knows everything about him, and so everyone wants to know more. And perhaps that is the true peak of iconography, when the absence of information becomes your greatest allure. Bruno Mars doesn't need to say much, nor does he need to flood the media with appearances. Because every time he speaks, whether it's a lyric, a single caption, or even just a shrug, the world stops to listen. He doesn't follow trends. He is the trend. And that's why, in an era overwhelmed by fame and scandal, Bruno Mars remains one of the rare musical icons who shine brighter the quieter they become. If you believe the world needs more artists like Bruno, those who let music speak louder than noise, hit like, share this video with friends, revisit the hits that once moved you, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next unforgettable story in our journey through the world's most iconic music.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.